All right, we are live. It is 6:05. Committees are in session. For the record, this evening, Mr. Joins will not be in attendance. He did notify the mayor. He had to attend to other business. Mr. Harvey will take his committee for the meetings today. Who would like to go first? 6:05. Any volunteers?
I'll go.
All righty, Mr. DeZ.
Yeah, I just got a couple of things that Chief Woodley hasn't heard anything from the Hudson Communication to about finalizing the programs for the March Radio. And there were 2 shut-ins received their COVID-19 vaccinations from the fire department. And that's basically all I have.
All right, Chief Woodley or Chief Stitt?
Well, the one thing I do have is,
Mayor?
I don't know how many of you know, and I waited, but I did receive the retirement letter for our fire chief, Chief Stitt. So I'll read it into the record tomorrow. And just to let everybody know, I'll be actively seeking a new fire chief. I wish you all the best. And I wish I was retiring.
Well, when you get to be my age, you can do it. It'd be down to one job for the first time in 40 years. That'll be great.
Anything else for safety? All right. Seeing nothing additional, it is 6:06. Safety is closed. Since you're in attendance, Mr. Harvey, we will allow you to take Parks and Buildings at 6:07.
6:07. Okay, thank you. And as stated, Kyle is not here for the meeting. I'm going to defer to Tommy for right now and get an update on what's going on with him. And then I'll cover the mayor even else. Tom?
Thank you, Councilman Harvey. There's been a lot going on in our parks and buildings as it relates to our community room reopening and our parks reopening. I'd like to start with your patience to describe a series of events that has started on Good Friday, or I think it was a week ago from Good Friday. Forget exactly the date there, but not this past Friday, but the one before. Our Senate of Ohio did put a bill on the floor, Senate Bill 22. It did overturn all of the rulings that the Governor DeWine and his Ohio Department of Health enacted at the onset of COVID. So the vote went to the floor, it was approved, and it will be effective 90 days after its approval, which is June 23rd. And I know a lot of you have been anxiously awaiting a letter that I was going to send to our seniors about the community room. I did sit down and read the requirements and was looking for some confirmation from our Ohio Department of Aging, the agency that did shut our room down in the past, to get some clarification. But when I saw that order went into effect, and again, I'm going to simplify this without going through all 30 orders that the governor and the Board of Health director did enact since COVID started. But again, on June 23rd, everything that they enacted is now null and void. And I did, and I will be working with our solicitor to make sure that all of this is exact what I'm saying. But I can tell you, it did change my direction to opening the community room. And then after that went into effect on yesterday, April 5th, the governor came on and had an emergency announcement regarding outdoor activities in the state of Ohio. And it seems like he's moving ahead of that June 23rd deadline and has, effective now, changed the requirements on outdoors. In fact, they call it rescinded. And there were 18, and Amy and I did try to contact everybody before the meeting, but there were 18 actions that had been rescinded. And all of those 18, in that 18, I would say at least 9, 15, and 17 of that rescinding did affect us directly in how we do activities in our parks. So they did name specifically the mandatory requirements regarding the closures and modifications to park playgrounds, gyms, volleyball, gaga pits, basketball. It did rescind everything on those. And they changed the language from shall do things to it's actually been rescinded. And I'm going to just read one of them that I want you to know when I tell you this. This is how the governor's Department of Health wrote it. And again, this is an action that took place yesterday. The director's order of facial coverings throughout the state of Ohio, signed July 23rd, 2020, is rescinded. That was one action. The director's order reopens campgrounds, and the director's order that reopens campgrounds with exceptions, signed May 20th, 2020, is rescinded. And those are the kind of language that they use point blank and drop the orders that affected that. And I say that with the campgrounds because we had to compare our park properties to activities similar to campgrounds. But with that being said, and all the conversation around our parks, I'd like to ask this council, and Doug, if chime in if you'd like. I don't know that with all of these things being effective immediately, I don't know that we would want to keep our orange fencing up on the playground equipment or the pavilions. It's specific in there. It does talk about pavilions and group meetings and open public areas, outdoor facilities. I've read it a couple times. I know Amy's looked at it, but it does allow those activities to begin again on our properties. So I'm just reaching out for any questions or comments about it right now.
Tom, thank you. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. And I guess the thing that I guess we need to look at is where we came about with this. And back in the May area, when this started, we had received the guidelines, the mandatory guidelines from Mike DeWine and the Ohio Department of Health, stating, your mandatory and the responsible restart of Ohio back then. And the mandatory and had closures. They have pavilions, splash pads, basketball, volleyball, gaga pits. All these activities were under mandatory and closures back in, was that May?
Most of them were around May 20th, yes.
Yeah, around May 20th. I guess the thing I need to ask you is, since then, through the months and everything, we looked at everything. Has anybody ever contacted you, or has there been anything out there put forth by the governor, the Ohio Department of Health, or the Trumbull County, Health Department?
No,
that rescinded that.
No rescinding until April 5th, right now. There
So we
were
were following their guidelines.
when the original orders came out, mandatory with exceptions, we were allowed to operate as long as we followed these exceptions. And that's why the mayor and your council did allow us to hire some park attendants, because in those exceptions, we did have cleaning of the facilities, education. We had governing over those group settings where we kept the people away,
Yes.
from meeting.
And I have that group of activities that were approved right here. Every other swing, every other teeter totter. Those were approved through the Trumbull County Board of Health, and that was our summer program from last year. We would even only go back to the 2019 pre-COVID with full-blown activities. Thomas, any the last few weeks or something, have you had any contact with Frank, the head of the Trumbull County Board of Health? On updates, if anything had changed since May, as far as he knew? Did he
No,
have-
none of the governor's orders, except for what I talked to him about the Senate Bill 22. We talked about that at length, and when its effective dates will go in. But no, nothing changed, Mr.
He had
Hurley.
no official documentation from anybody that specifically stated that the Gaga pits, all this other stuff, was allowed to open without any restrictions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Frank had sold it. So those are the guidelines, people, we try to follow the rules and the guidelines as best we can. People who listen to these meetings from the governor, he'll tell you one thing and then he'll say with restrictions, and somebody, you gotta go on the line, you gotta follow all this stuff to find out what those restrictions and what he's actually talking about,
Yeah,
and to make sure, and
Yeah.
the passage of this new bill, it's gonna clear all that on that date, but we were marching to the guidelines that we were officially supposed to
Okay, now-
guideline under.
but now I'd like to ask council if with this new order from April 5th, if the mayor, if you could chime in, or Doug, anybody, I'd like permission to go ahead and take those orange snow fencings down because they are no longer required in our parks. But
I would do it tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Those new guidelines are fantastic. You're looking at, we usually, the park opens May anyhow, so you're gonna have April preparations. But you can look at getting the basketball courts ready, things like that. Swings and stuff. Get things ready like we normally do. Wait, that schedule falls in place. You guys have the great scenario for that stuff when it comes up anyhow. And you'll find out if the school's gonna have any activities there and whatnot. But yes, it would be great. Ask everybody to think
yeah,
about that, but with the new information we have and a green light, this pink program for 2019, maybe it's coming, and I'm all happy as a kite if we can get this through, but we got to be cautious, do things. Our guys are working hard at everything else, and I'm a happy camper with the new information that we have. If council members feel comfortable with these things open, Chief Woodley down the road, basketball was open 8 to 6, 7 days a week. You guys open closed. If that can happen again, that is great. Other things need to come in, talk about it, come into play, but this is all positive. This is all great things that are going to be coming forward. And here's what Tommy's asking, if you want to, mayor and everybody, is to start that process. And I hope you support that, and I certainly do. And
okay. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Thank you. I did have a lot of information circulating. I didn't know if anybody else had any questions about it.
Mr. Ross had a comment, if we could.
Yeah, I mean, I just read the 2 orders today, and I think the order rescinding all of the orders is one thing, but then they basically reenacted new positions on all these issues. And I mean, I have no problem with the village opening up whatever they can under the new guidelines, but I still think we should review them and take a look at them in conjunction with our activities and make sure that all of the things you want to do are allowed, which from my first just breeze through it, it appears that most, if not all, the park activities should be okay. But I still think we should require just slight analysis rather than just, opening up everything tomorrow. I am I'm a little conservative. I like to proceed with caution. So my suggestion is Thomas and I can read them together and go through the lists of what we want to do. And Thomas, I'll be glad to meet with you, this week, next week, to sit down and look at these in conjunction with the activities, as well as the community room, and then circle back and recommend opening whatever we can open and go from there. Would be my thought.
Definitely, Doug. I know that the outdoor activities I'm pretty confident with, but I happily agree. I know that the indoor that's where I'm looking for some clarification. I'm not suggesting anything change on our indoor properties, whether it be the community room, municipal building, or any other place that we meet inside. That has some interpretation still, but yeah, I'd be happy to meet with
Yeah,
them as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
the outdoor park activities will be fine as long as we keep people, from congregating past the limit and social distancing when you gotta try to enforce them to the best of our abilities. But yeah, doing things outdoor really does look to be, wide open, no pun intended, from what I just read this afternoon.
Yeah,
Should be
thank
a
you.
clear path, to open those things up. But we can go through every single activity you want to do, and we can just make sure we have a nice little run through or checklist of all of them. And
Sure,
green light, green light, green light. And if we got to red light something, we can.
very good. I'll reach out to you. Thank you, thank you. Um,
So what do you guys want to do for tomorrow? Or what are your thoughts? Hold off for a bit till we get more clarification?
yeah, I'll reach out to Doug tomorrow and find
Okay.
out when we can meet.
Yeah, and if you think there's something tomorrow night that you want to feel comfortable with to get out and get open,
Yeah.
we can do that tomorrow. Just,
What about a mention that says that, that Mr. Dimitrovic and Mr. Ross are gonna go over the governor's rulings and what can be reopened will be reopened.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah, do we have to pass anything? I mean, we're good. I mean, it's a part of the programs. I mean,
I mean,
don't
as
have to
far
do anything
as
on the
far as the
programs
park
yet.
goes, yeah, but when you think about it, as far as the park goes,
Never.
I don't think we're not reopening anything.
Ah,
The
there's never-
parks weren't closed,
works
But
weren't closed.
right? So it's a matter of taking the fence off of a pavilion with no chairs in it and a fence around the playground, essentially. The swings, and I don't know whether the teeter-totters were taken down, but normally those get put up after, Memorial Day anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't think we really, it's not an opening, in my
True.
opinion, the way I see it.
You're right. I've been walking here and doing activities, the park has been open to those things, walking and exercise and, but yeah, if you want to just, get some of those things and the swings and other stuff, sometimes if we're gonna have picnics there, they can come up a week or so sooner. That all comes into play when we know more what's going on with some other venues, but, I agree. We haven't, our guys have done it so many years. It's just, once Doug and Tommy confirm what we got, our list is right there. We know what we have closed and open. And tomorrow, if we see something we can do, you're right. Those fences on those things could be really a start. And
Yeah,
ask everybody tomorrow how they feel when we get more information from Doug and Tom. Great. That's a great news release that's was yesterday, and great news. We've all been looking forward for that.
I'll make this comment. I have spoke with a couple residents who asked me about the fences in recent weeks. And I just want to commend the mayor, Thomas, for staying and following the rules for the past year. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we represent McDonald, Ohio and McDonald, Ohio only. We can't speak for what others do, but the rules have been the rules up until yesterday at 2 p.m. and we're still deciphering what those rules are. So I just want to commend you guys for sticking to the rules as they were
Felt comfortable with that
written.
also, Ray. You're absolutely right.
Although whether personally you may be for or against them, the rules are the rules. So
thank you.
Thank you.
And Ray, yes, I agree. We've stuck to those and we've always looked for updates and everything like that. And as our information comes from Tom, it comes from everybody. They'll look. We stayed the course and open when nobody did. We hired park teachers and supervisors and nobody was doing any activities. And we put together a program right amidst COVID that did get approved, So we're always thinking out of the box. Not only ones just thought about maybe you had the swing, maybe you had the teeter-totter and put a program together. So yes, Mayor, Tom, think out of the box. That was a great thing. And now we'll just sit back and see where we can open. And I commend them also to sticking by and protect our community and our people first and go from there. COVID played havoc on a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And protection, just came in all different kind of sources. And we just try to keep up with what was transpiring. And I also commend them. Thomas, what else we got going on?
Well, as the news release or the latest announcement, that does dictate a lot of what we do in parks and buildings. So hesitant to do anything else right at this moment. But I will be talking to potential for a new park supervisor. Hannah Jones did serve us faithfully for a couple years now and did a great job, but did move on. And I'm in the process with the mayor of getting a new park supervisor, and we'll be looking to make an announcement to get some summer park employees going again for our upcoming program. But other than that, Councilman Harvey, I don't think I have much else going on. I just announcement. I know that the summer baseball program is very proud of what they've been doing lately. They did just get a new shed to keep equipment and materials in at the field. I have been working with them on the construction of a new T-ball field, and in that we did a lot of drainage work that we've learned is extremely successful. We'll apply that to some of the other fields throughout the season too. Always keeping everybody, coaches, in contact of our construction. And it's been nice to be able to get out and do these things and make those improvements for the summer baseball program. I did want you to know that much about it. So, but otherwise, I think I'm done with the parks and buildings unless you think of something.
Hi, Thomas, that's your absolute. I've enjoyed my time going down in the mornings and evenings, just looking at those fields, how they're manicured, how they're just taking care of the little T-ball field, come back into play, and just a great, watching, the grass is getting gray now. We're moving into those phases where our kids are going to be just back in there, and they're now back in there and participating there. I think we have one more announcement. I think we are going to try to have the Memorial Day service. Is that correct?
Thank you. Yeah.
Memorial Day service is going to be moving forward. So we'll probably have some more information on that, but they are looking forward to putting that forward. So anybody else have anything? Anybody?
Mr. Schmidt?
I do.
Yes.
I assume that we'll be discussing our meetings, where we're going to be holding them once we figure out the indoor activities.
Yeah, what I didn't feel comfortable in trying to interpret was where some things were just blatantly cut out of the governor's orders. There is, like Doug had said, they got rid of the old order, but then they revised it, and that has to do with everything indoors. So I'd like to say soon we'll be meeting again face to face, but let Doug and I go over that and see what the requirements would be for us to be face to face.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to, if everybody would think about it, if at all possible, I'd like to start meeting back to face in May. If that's a goal, that would be a
Good goal.
Last 2 meetings before we break for summer break. Yeah. We have 2 meetings at
I
least
like
get
that.
together. I'd like to do that. Oh. Anybody else have anything for parks? We'll close at
It's 6:28.
6:28. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Moving on to our service chair, Mr. Fisher.
Yes, we'll call service at 6:28. You guys hear me all right? I tried a different venue here.
Yes.
So we got a bunch of things on for tonight. First thing we're going to talk about is maybe paving the parking lot, and then also to look at some problem areas of the roads and the curbs. And I'm going to let Thomas talk about that, and then we'll get to the other things. Chad, Thomas.
Thanks, Councilman Fisher. I did start getting quotes on the parking lot across at the Ramsey. In the time that I was doing that, I did have to go look at a problem that we have up on Oregon in the 800 block. They have a gutter, I would say a concrete gutter. It's about 2 feet wide in this particular area where we have a catch basin, 2 catch basins for stormwater collection. We have a real problem there where the water doesn't move quickly through it. It needs replaced. I'm asking if I could get permission if we're going to put some money towards some paving. I don't want to go crazy, but at the same time, this is a real safety concern at the 800 block of Oregon. I don't want cars to take on any damages. I didn't have enough time to get you pictures, but the curbing is in the driving lane where it's picked up and probably as high as 3 to 4 inches in some areas and needs corrected. So if I can go to work with a paving company and do a official bid and work with an engineer, get this thing corrected and increase the safety in that area, I'll throw the parking lot on there as well. But I do know that this is a safety concern.
Thomas, can we get added into that? Could we, look and see what it would cost us to do both sides of our parking lots, and then also the lot that we had intended to put in where we tore down the Scarborough.
Yeah, I can start that. I could have, permission to get the engineers involved. That would be too much. Parking lot wasn't a big deal, but the parking lot wasn't too bad for me to try to do on my own. But with that curbing problem up on Oregon, and then those things, I'd like to have the engineers on board for that too.
Mr. Fisher?
Okay, so moving on, Thomas is also going to talk to everybody about a document that he has to review for the water tower inspection. So Thomas, if you want to go ahead with that one.
Yeah, some people may have identified there were people crawling around on our water towers a couple weeks back. Required to have the tanks inspected every 5 years. We're in the process. The inspection's been done. The document is prepared, but I don't know what the price is going to be, but they want to meet in person. So I'm setting up a date in the very near future to have that document reviewed. So I didn't look at it yet, Mr. Fisher, but I'm going to probably next week meet up with Suez. They are a licensed tank inspection through the EPA, and we'll find out what they'd like us to do to make some minimal improvements or clean, and see how our last tank project went, where we have to make any recovery. But I'll keep you posted. I'll have to report back to you on that after the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good. So moving on, we do have our curbside cleanup coming up on the 20th and 21st, so that village residents can put out, whatever they need to, barring the, the usual paint, tire, stuff like that. But also too, here coming up, not this meeting tomorrow, but the next meeting in April, we're going to have to start the reading for the solicitor's contract. I briefly spoke with Doug. I think that he's okay with just changing the dates. How does everybody else on council feel about that? Go ahead and give me your views while I mute out for this track meet.
That's good.
I don't know. I think we need to check in a little further. No, I'm just kidding. And Mr. Ross, thank you for all your help since my tenure and even prior. You're kind of the guy behind the machine, and get very little recognition for all your hard work. It's appreciated.
I thank you. And every time we talk about the contract, I do point out that I believe it has a clause where council can terminate the contract within 30 days. So you guys always keep me on a short leash anyway. So
It's by design.
Okay, I had a lot of background noise there, so I was hoping you guys were going to get me through that. But on top of that, I was talking to our fiscal officer, and we have some paperwork going through that's going to need to be read with workman's comp. A few years back, we were removed from the group discount rating because of some situations, and we have a chance to get back into that. However, Comp Management, who was our MCO before, has now merged, and they've become Sedgwick, and they have agreed to bring us on. They're the only company that handles villages, so we have to get something passed with the 3 reads in 30 days by June, I believe, so that we can get involved with that group rating discount. It's going to be a
Canada, you wanted to speak to that?
So we're already in the group. What happened was Matrix was our third party, and they worked with Comp Management in the past. Comp Management was said, okay, Matrix, it's your client, but you can put them in the group rating. Comp Management has now reached out to Matrix and said, you no longer can put anybody in with them. We're going to take it over ourselves, so that they would like us. But as far as the June, we have to have the payment to them by May 31st is the absolute latest. They have to receive the signed agreement and the payment in order for us to be approved and in the group rating for 2022.
Okay.
And they also have offered to, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, they offered to amend the original agreement that they sent us for September 1st. It would have started, but now they backed it up for free for the 2 months before that, because our agreement with Matrix would end June, right? July, August, June 30th. So they're going to pick up July and August, and then they will be take the place of Matrix. And we were with Comp Management in the past, which is now Sedgwick, before we fell out of group rating.
If I may, Lori summarized it accurately, and I did read all of the contract documents. I reached out to Sedgwick and asked them to change 2 provisions. They're not huge provisions. I haven't heard back from them yet. Regardless of what they do, I did prepare a resolution, and my suggestion is that our next meeting in April, we just pass that resolution, not on an emergency basis, but just waiving the 3-read process. That'll make it effective 30 days later, and it'll give Lori time to make the payment and get the contract documents in by the end of May. At the same time, we need to send a letter, I believe, to Matrix under our current agreement, just letting them know that we're not going to be renewing past the current renewal date. So I'm just waiting to hear back from Sedgwick. If they make the changes, great. If they don't make the changes, I would still recommend moving forward. And either way, we can address it next meeting by waiving the 3-read process if council is so inclined to do so. But everything's ready. The legislation's prepared. If that works for Lori and works for council, it's fine with me.
Anybody with questions on that? Sounds all right with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think waiving the 3-read is good. I think everybody understands that, anytime you have an insurance quote, it's always very timely. And unfortunately with government, it always doesn't give us enough time for 3 reads in 30 days. So I don't think anybody else has a problem with waiving the 3-read process, especially when we knew ahead of time. And it's this program we already take part in. It's just a pretty much change of ownership at the MCO. But as far as contracts are concerned, obviously we already talked about the solicitor's contract is dated for January 30th, 21. We're going to have to, at some point in the next meeting in April, read the paramedic backup with Lanes. That agreement is also due June the 30th of 21. Obviously, I'm pretty sure that contract will read the exact same. And then I'm sure this is an administrative issue, but the fiscal officer's bond is due May the 2nd. I'm sure that they will handle that. But that's all I have. If anybody else has any questions, concerns, topics that we didn't cover, we'll go ahead and close.
It's 6:38. All right, it's 6:38. Service is closed. And at 6:38, our finance chair, Mr. Schmidt.
Thanks. Mine's going to be pretty brief here. Thomas, you don't have any numbers on those quotes yet, right?
No, I'm gonna be
Okay.
building that to suit a couple other projects. Instead of having a couple different paving companies come in at different times, we're just gonna try to, I've worked with, again, Doug, putting bid packages together. We have alternate 1, alternate 2. We'll take what we need to, but hopefully just have one paving company in town at the same time.
Okay, great. We do have a piece of legislation for read tomorrow. We will, because of time sensitivity, we will waive the 3-read process for that and just give it the 30 days there. And Lori was doing a great job. Our audit was going pretty smoothly, or has went pretty smoothly, correct? So we're waiting. Feeling pretty good about it, Lori?
I am feeling good about it. They have not, I don't think that they finished the audit though. They were supposed to reach out this week and do a few more things, and they haven't gotten back to me. And if they reach out in the next few days or the beginning of next week, actually even into the middle of next week, I'll be on vacation, so it might take a little longer.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for all your hard work for that.
Oh, thank you, and thank Amy and Tom and Peggy
Yep.
and everybody else that pitched in. And
Awesome.
Sean, do you mind if I go over those blanket POs real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So, Council Mayor, I had reached out before the last meeting and sent you guys an email about the blanket purchase orders and how we might have needed to do a resolution or to make a motion on the floor to just go ahead and pass them. But after reaching out to auditors of state and Doug, thank you again, Doug. We don't have to do that, but it would probably be a good idea just to still let you guys know that with Thomas and I had gone over and done blanket purchase orders for building maintenance and then street tools and equipment and street department and materials. And with those two, the two for street department, we have done an increase in the amount. Again, we're not increasing any appropriations or anything, just the amount of the blanket purchase orders. And then Thomas and I had discussed, and I opened up a blanket for water cap issues. So if anybody has any questions about them, you guys can reach out. But it's basically the same amounts that I had sent you an email about. And in the future, if you want, we can just go ahead and I'll let you know when the blankets come, you know, if they're for significant amounts or if we're going to do an increase. Good.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Sean.
Anybody else have anything for finance?
Good question. Are we hear anything? Are we getting any more COVID money by chance in the new releases? Anybody see anything? Lori? Maybe?
I don't think they're giving out any COVID money
Any
necessarily.
money, any additional money for projects or anything? Are we in the loop for anything? Are
It's
we
called stimulus money.
stimulus money?
Right.
There we go. We in place for any stimulus money?
Yes, we will be receiving some funds probably in June. And then we will receive some, I think it's 6 months after that.
Do we know the amount yet or no?
The amount should be somewhere around 600,000.
600,000.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're
That's a
welcome.
nice figure.
Hey, real quick, I forgot to mention it under parks and buildings, but I guess it could be finance since we're gonna hire people, but I would like to have Thomas contact the school so we can get applications in for park attendance this year. Just letting everybody know.
Also, another quick thing, there's a message out there for the scholarships for the school. They need to get their money in from us. We give 2 scholarships, so if you can get that money together and get it to Kyle.
Yeah, let's get it in by the end of this week.
And
Let's put a
Mhm.
deadline out there because, you know, the school, we hate to have that hang out there.
yeah, there's a email everybody should have got. So try and get that as soon as you can. And so we can get that squared away for us. Thank you.
Anything further? Nope. All right. What time is it?
6:43.
6:43.
Just to let
Thank you,
know,
sir.
Thomas, Naomi won 100 and a 300 handily. She looked really strong at the end of the 300. She just finished.
Thank you.
Nice. Congrats.
Great.
She win her heat.
She did. She won overall. She finished strong today. She struggled the other day and looked good today.
Thanks.
All right. 6:44. Committees are totally closed.